On this episode, I welcome Griffin Spolansky, founder and CEO of Mezcla, a delicious new take on the protein bar category. My team and I have been lucky enough to work with him on the launch of his brand. He's a very young buck, and this is his first rodeo, and I think he can provide great insights into starting from that vantage point. So all you other young bucks out there, listen up. You might learn something. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome, Griffin. It's good to have you.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. It's been a minute. We were trying to get you in here, and it's good to have you. And I just want to start off, no one knows your brand yet other than us and some probably family members and some early customers. So tell us, what is Mezcla? What's your background? What's your story? Why are you here?
Yeah. So Mezcla is a vegan, gluten-free, plant-based protein bar that celebrates the world's diversity through food and art. So we're actually highlighting one main ingredient on the front of our wrappers and sourcing that ingredient from a place that we call out on the wrapper as well. So we actually have a Japanese matcha vanilla SKU with the matcha sourced directly from Japan, a Peruvian cocoa peanut butter SKU with the chocolate sourced directly from Peru, and a Mexican chipotle hot chocolate SKU with the chipotle sourced directly from Mexico. So, that's one way that we're celebrating the world's diversity. And then the other way is through art. So we've actually found an artist from each country to highlight on the front of our wrappers, and they've actually designed each specific wrapper. And we have a QR code in the middle of each wrapper that when scanned leads consumers, to a different piece of user-generated art every week. So that's our brand in a nutshell. And I guess one other thing to add to that is this brand was started while I was a senior at UVA. I met a lady named Coco Sotelo who immigrated from Mexico 15 plus years ago. And what was interesting about her story was that when she came to America, she felt lost and she felt like she didn't have a place. And she actually started making granola using ingredients from her hometown in Mexico and selling it to people in the city of Charlottesville, Virginia. And what was interesting is she actually felt like she found her voice through food, and she felt like she connected with her new community through using ingredients from her previous one. That story really stuck out to me. Coco and I started a friendship, and 10 months later, we created Mezcla, which means mixture in Spanish. And here we are today.
That's a mouthful right there. You got that locked.
Yeah.
You should as the founder. And you don't really hear that much, right? Like a college student meets a woman that immigrated here 10 years ago from Mexico and starts up a brand with her. So like, what sparked it for you? Obviously you liked her story, but were you thinking about what to do post-graduation? Like how did you end up saying, this is the moment that I'm going to make a choice and get into business with her?
Yeah. I love food. I was actually going into hospitality, out of college, and I met her. I really connected with her, met her family, became really close with her. And we actually met with some Walmart buyers, got an opportunity there. And at that point, I was like, we need to take it and go for it.
So how does a college kid get a Walmart relationship and get introduction to Walmart?
Yeah. So I was at the Fancy Food Show in New York City last July. Two Walmart buyers were talking to a group of people. And I was in the audience. They said they're happy to talk to anyone in the crowd afterwards, but they're not giving out business cards. They're not giving out their personal info, but happy to chat. So I actually waited for the whole room to clear out, and I approached one buyer. I pitched the idea. He actually gave me his business card, and things went from there.
Amazing. So let's say that didn't happen. You mentioned hospitality, but what would you be doing if you weren't doing this? What in hospitality were you planning on doing?
Yeah, so I was really interested in two things growing up. I grew up in New York City, surrounded by all these buildings and surrounded by this amazing food. So I was interested in both real estate and hospitality. I interned at a hedge fund in the real estate sector. I interned at CBRE, and I interned at a construction company. And I was planning on working in real estate, and then I actually got an offer from the Hailstone Group, which is a restaurant group. Was just planning on going there, learning, and then doing something entrepreneurial down the road, kind of fusing real estate and hospitality.
So do you think you would have done that? Like now sitting back, and it's not that long ago, but like now sitting back and looking at it, would you have made your way into chugging along through a company like Hailstone Group? Or do you think you had that entrepreneurial spirit and you might have just taken that leap directly?
Well, with COVID, I don't know, honestly, because a lot of restaurants obviously closed out and, hospitality became infinitely more difficult. I'm sure that, if COVID didn't hit, I would have, stayed at Hailstone for quite a while and then probably ended up doing my own thing. But with COVID, there are so many variables. I really don't even know.
Do you think with COVID, it is better that you're doing your own thing, or would you think like there would be some like nicety to be somewhere where at least you have the security of them keeping you on?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, there's really no security with starting your own company, right? There are positives and negatives to both, but I wake up every day excited to do what I do. So I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Do you think there is going back now that you've done it? Like, would you go back? You've never tasted the other side, but do you think you would try going back and like working somewhere?
Uh, Honestly, I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure. I definitely think that in the future, I will be involved in real estate and hospitality to some capacity. I don't know whether that's in the hotel industry or not. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. Not sure. Not sure whether that's a yes or no. Whether I would work for someone at this point.
Right. All right. We'll circle back after some time. We'll take a
Exactly.
look at that. So what's another brand that you would use as a benchmark? Like, I love that model, and if I could emulate that, it would be a good playbook for me.
Yeah, Verb Energy. I think that they do a fantastic job. Young kids went to Yale. They sell an energy bar, and they do it on a subscription model. They do a lot with SMS texting, which I admire very heavily. We've spoken with them multiple times, and I think they're really smart, hungry kids. And I do think that they have a really strong product, which is, first and foremost in this industry, the most important thing. So I think that from an admiration standpoint, I really admire what they're doing and how they're doing it.
That's a good one, and pretty early stage. So
Yeah.
that's a good one that you mentioned. And we've spoken before. We've had the opportunity to work together, and you mentioned them on our first call. And what I find generally is that in this space, there's a lot of just like good humans that are willing to share intel and feedback. And I feel like you experienced that with them, right?
100%. Yeah.
You don't always get that in every industry. Sometimes it's cutthroat, like they
Yeah.
don't want to give you industry secrets. So I think that's a real sort of pay it forward, not spoken enough component of this industry, which really allows you to get ahead. Everyone should succeed in this business. It doesn't have to be one versus the other.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. I'm glad you experienced it. Flipping the script a little bit, do you, as a young guy, do you have a mentor in your life? And if so, who is it and why?
Yeah, I would say it's my dad. I probably go to him with, multiple questions every day, and he probably gets annoyed with me, honestly, on a daily basis because I'm asking him for questions and for help all the time. But I really admire him because he was able to start his business from nothing, and he works extremely hard. And for him, I think it's all about grit, and that's what he's taught me. There's no chance that a new CPG brand succeeds without having founders that are gritty. So, I mean, he's definitely a big mentor for me.
It's a good one. I feel like I was asked that a few years ago, and I said my dad. Or like, who motivates you most in business? And everyone was thinking like Gary Vaynerchuk or someone, and it was my dad. And he's an eye doctor, but he definitely put that grit in me. So on that, you grew up in a house, obviously with a good father situation. You ended up going to UVA. I wonder, great school. Obviously, you have to be super smart to go there. Do you think it's worth it? Like, do you think a UVA education is worth it now, looking back on at least your own journey?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it was the perfect place to be. I think that from a college standpoint, you get out what you put into it, honestly. And I don't think it's necessarily about what you learn in the classroom. I think it's more so what you learn out of the classroom. I learned tremendous discipline while at UVA. And I would not have traded that experience for the world. I also met Coco at UVA and really came up with the idea for Mezcla at UVA. So I couldn't have pictured a better outcome, truthfully.
If you didn't go to UVA, where would you have gone?
Well, I actually went to Colgate my first year of college, actually. So I probably would have ended up and stayed there.
Got it. Okay. What do you think is an attribute about you personally that will dictate why you will be successful?
Yeah. Well, this is, I guess, kind of a self-serving statement here, but grit, I would say, for me. I'm up early. Actually, not too early. I'm up like at 8:30, which is pretty normal time. But I go to bed at like 2:30 in the morning, and I'm putting in really long hours, doing everything I can to try and make it succeed. And I think that for an entrepreneur that's just starting out, like I said, especially in this industry, you need to be working harder than your competitors. Because we don't, truthfully, we're not going to have the funds to compete with a one bar, to compete with the kind bar. So, right now for me, it's all about just working as hard as I can and being as smart as I can and efficient as I can in my processes.
Right. And do you measure yourself against other people? Like, when you think grit is obviously a word that's thrown around a lot.
Yep.
We've already talked about it 3 times here. Do you measure like how gritty am I, like compared to other comps, other people my age? Like, do you ever do an assessment like that, or you just know Griffin on his own benchmark is gritty? Like, what's your take on that?
Honestly, not really. I think for me, it's just I need to work as hard as I can to make this thing successful. comparing it to other people, I don't think will really do anything to benefit me. I know that, for our investors and for all of our stakeholders, I need to work as hard as possible to, make them money. And also, this was started in a social entrepreneurship class at UVA. So I need to work as hard as possible to also create social good as well. So I think that, both of those things drive me to work hard. And then also internally, I'm driven to work hard just because I want to be successful as well.
Yeah, it's the number one attribute, I would say. And to be honest with you, I'm 43 and I've lived through .com boom and I lived through 9/11, I've lived through the recession, and now we're here. And for a while, I've been telling a lot of people over like the last 8 years, like, you have not been punched in the face yet. You've not seen a downturn. You don't really know grit until you've experienced that. Like wartime general versus peacetime general. So you're starting right in it. So it's a good time. You'll have lived through a hard time, which I think that you will. And then it's like swinging two bats in the warm up circle. When you get out there, it'll be like just knocking them out of the park when things get better. So what do you think is one thing, or what is one thing that keeps you up at night about your business?
Yeah, I think that with all the founders that I've spoken to that are early stage, it seems to be the same answer, and it's the same for me as well. Just cash, making sure that I'm managing cash smartly and intelligently, and just accurately forecasting our cash flows. I think that's really important as an early stage startup, and I want to make sure that we're able to really accurately pinpoint how we're spending, why we're spending, and if there is any difference between our forecast and our actuals, like what the difference is and why that occurred.
Right. And it's hard. I always say, so obviously having cash is key, and it's always like 5, 10x, whatever you think you need to be. But it's also, I think it's like, what I have found is that it's like swinging a golf club, right? You're supposed to swing it hard, but you're not supposed to swing too fast. It's got to have momentum. And so I almost think with like cash, like it's like you have to spend and be aggressive, but you want to be conservative and not overpay. And depending on who you speak to, be like, don't spend all your money, but then you'll look at some other people in the space who are like, they spent all that money, and like, it's hard to figure out that balance. So has there been any one expenditure that you took that was a mistake, that really like stung you? Or has there been anything that you think you held back on that in retrospect, like you probably should have doubled down on? Either one of those answers.
I think one of our biggest mistakes is, obviously, we launched in Walmart before we literally sold any other bars to any other customers. And I didn't realize that our boxes would blend in as much as they did. And by saying that, I mean, they really don't stand out at all on shelves, in the Walmart set right now. And I think that there were some fundamental errors that we made as a team. They look great when you get them, e-commerce, and they look great, if I shipped you a box, but they just blend in on the shelf. And that was a big expense for us. And going back, I would have loved to, redesign it and make it so it stuck out a little bit more. So I do think that was one mistake on our end. But that said, we were working really hard and really quickly to get the bars to be ready to go for Walmart. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it was the greatest mistake ever, but I do think that it was definitely a mistake and something that I would like to change if I could go back.
That's a big one. You'll never make that mistake again.
I will not. No.
Did you use a branding firm for that, or did you use like a independent package designer? Yeah.
So one of the actual partners in Mezcla does all of our branding for us. He's absolutely amazing. His name's Joey Rosa. Socially conscious branding firm. He has a really cool kind of spiel and really cool shtick, I guess. And he did it for us, and he actually did a great job. It's not his fault at all. That's really on me. My direction kind of lacked there. And I think that that's a product of my age, honestly. And just not really being involved in the space before.
Totally. And that's one of those things that like you could ask around and playbook and read books, but like you could just miss it, and you sort of have to learn some of those things. And you hope that they're not fatal, right? That it's like such a big expenditure that it's fatal. So that's a good one. And I think people get value out of that answer for sure. So that was sort of a hardship. You went with the negative. What has been like the best day of your journey so far?
So 2 days stick out. One was the first production run. Just amazing to see, an idea go to reality. And the second was the day our bars hit shelves in Walmart. It was great for like the first 4 hours, one of the best days. And then I got to Walmart and saw the bars on shelves. And then I realized, like, oh, wow, we actually have a storm on our hands. So we have to figure this out. So those 2 days stick out as good days. Obviously, the latter kind of starting as a good day and then ending as a day like, let's get back to the drawing board and figure out how we can do better.
Totally. Yeah, it's one of those things. I was just talking about this with Mark Samuel yesterday about like, once you hit the top of that mountain, you almost don't get
Another
a second
climb.
to breathe and enjoy it. It's like, what's the next mountain? So in this instance, it was, we're on the shelves and you should enjoy it. You got to enjoy it because there's more hard days than good days. So that was a really good thing for you. But now you realize you got to go back and like mess with that climb, and it's a good learning lesson for you. So I'm curious, what is one CPG or beverage brand, not yours, that you just love and why?
So obviously Verb, like I said before, but I think one other one is Smart Sweets. Amazing brand. Young founder as well. And I think that there's just a need in the space for what they're doing. If anyone's not familiar with Smart Sweets, obviously, they're producing healthier gummies essentially. And there are a few other, companies in the space now like Behave as well. But I think Smart Sweets did a really good job of coming to market, being colorful, getting the consumer's attention. They taste delicious, and I admire how hard the founders worked at such a young age. So I think they're a great company.
Great example. We work with a competitor of theirs, Yum Earth, but I'm a big fan of everything that they do. We've spoken with them, and they're one of these brands that I think stands out as it's fairly simple. I love the idea of reinventing something that's a little broken, meaning all sugar and high fructose corn syrup, and going after that space. But a real commitment to branding, storytelling, and then going out and using influencers and doing all the things that we talk about. They don't sleep on that front, and that's why they're on top of most people's lists. So it's a good example. All right, some unpackaged questions for you. So who do you look to for business inspiration, or what do you look to for business inspiration? Books, podcasts, any resource you dig? What do you want to share?
Yeah, good question. LinkedIn is a huge tool for me. I'm actually looking at a lot of your posts, looking at a lot of Mark Samuel's posts.
Thank you.
Nick Sharma. Just really trying to peruse the web and see what I can get on there. I think that's and also I listen to a lot of Guy Raz podcasts as well.
Okay, How I Built This.
Yep, How I Built This.
For inspo.
Yep.
Okay, you'll be on there someday, right?
That's the plan, yeah.
All right, good. So here's a question for you. So you're super young, you're right out of school. Are you 1,000% all in and only working like a psychopath, or are you also enjoying a little bit of these young sort of fun years right after school?
1,000,000%.
1,000,000% in.
1,000,000% in, yeah.
No fun.
Yeah, not really. Not really. Yeah.
Okay, good. So you're lucky that COVID hit.
Yeah,
right?
honestly, yeah.
Because it's gonna be a time and it gives you a good excuse. All right, good, as you should be. Okay, influencers, right? So we've done some work with you, and I noticed that you definitely work with some big name influencers early on. Seems like you had a commitment there. Like, how did you go about it, or what was your thinking about working with big influencers to start?
Yeah, I think that launching is really important. It's an art, and I do think that for us, we just had to get our name out there. Like I said before, there were so many brands in this space. And we wanted to have a multi-tiered approach where we were running Facebook ads, or we were doing influencer stuff, or we're doing giveaways, we're doing email marketing. I mean, I think that it's really important that it is tiered, and influencers were a really big piece of that. Obviously the return on ad spend is very difficult to assume at first because, some influencers could be a huge hit and huge success, and some influencers could be a huge bust. But for us, we targeted influencers that we thought, fit in our space really well and also could tell our brand story very well. And we had a strong initial launch with about 8 to 10 influencers. And overall, I think it was successful in the sense that it got a lot of eyeballs on our brand. Is it something we're going to be doing every month? Definitely not. At least not on that scale. But I think it was good for us to kind of launch with a nice solid base of 8 to 10 influencers.
Well, I think it was a smart play. I'm a big buyer of influencers, and I think the key is understanding it's like pragmatic business. And I think people get lost in the shuffle that influencers are basic and there's only like one dimensional and it's a silo. And I always say don't get so binary, and they just think it's like influencer or not. And I think the margins is where people are successful. In the margins, understanding that you're getting content and you're getting eyeballs, you are getting potential sales, but you're also getting affinity relationship if you pick the right influencers. It's also helpful to sell to buyers at places like Walmart and Wegmans and Sprouts. They love to see that you work with influencers because it's sort of implies the retail velocity support that you might be able to provide. And then if your product's good and you have a good relationship with them, you've opened up a door and you could keep the friends of the firm and they become a big, powerful word of mouth resource for you. Then after that, you can go downstream. It's harder to go up than down.
Exactly,
so once you've worked with Alyssa Lynch or somebody else like that, you can go to smaller, especially second tier markets where Walmart stores might be, and show them like, hey, here's some of the influencers I've worked with. And then you have these little sort of like micro small town influencers that are like, oh my God, and they want to get in there too. And we found that not only can we get discounts, we often sometimes can get gifted opportunities because of that affinity. So I'm a big buyer of starting strong. I didn't advise you on it, but I commend you on it because that was a smart play.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right too. I mean, we started with those top tier influencers, but we've done a lot of gifting as well, getting in-kind posts, which is really helpful for us. And then we also have an affiliate program as well with 60 plus, micro influencers, anywhere between 2 and 10,000 followers. And they're a great force for us. I mean, they're sending us content every month. They're posting on our behalf. They have discount links. I mean, they've been really helpful for us and have helped us build out our brand. And I do think, to your point, we needed those, higher tier, higher level influencers to help us get these, micro influencers, if you will.
And that's another thing, right? Like there's a lot of brands we speak to, like they don't really delineate between influencer and gifted influencer and affiliate and partner and ambassador and whatever the hell you want to call it. And they get binary. They're like influencer or not, or I don't have a budget or I do, or I philosophically believe in paying an influencer or I don't. I think it's important to break down each piece, right? If you have influencers that potentially want to work with you, give them an opportunity to do so. Become an ambassador, become a homie or a friend of the firm, get them in your wheelhouse. If you want content, micro influencers, key markets, you give them product, you get a content. So I think if you just take a business approach to it and reverse engineer what you want, you suddenly find that influencers are such a game changer part of your business. And then you get over the hump of having this like mishigas or hang up over like what they mean or what they don't mean. So again, I compliment you for it because not everyone sees the forest through the trees for that kind of stuff, but it's a smart way to go about it and it pays off dividends.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I think that for us, a lot of it is about testing right now, honestly. And what we're making a big push for right now is analytics and just making sure we understand every action that's taken and why. Obviously, a lot of that is hard because some of the actions that are taken are really not trackable. But overall, I completely agree. And I mean, right now, we're just making sure that we're testing and understanding what's working and what's not working.
I will give you a little cheat sheet, especially as a client of mine, that look, it is a lot of data. There's also what I call gut data, right? And it makes sense for someone like you, like branding and packaging, despite what we talked about earlier, as far as a packaging mistake at retail. But this is your baby and there's an aesthetic. Like content will be beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And sometimes understanding that even the data might tell you that X works, but you want some Y and you want to have a good balance with that. It's important that you stay true to your brand and that you stay true to your overall messaging. I also think on data, I was speaking to a client earlier today, like when you look at data, I like maybe an 80-20 rule, whatever you want to call it, but 80%, the data is informing what we want to do. So we're making smart decisions based on the data, but we always have a 20% to like say F the data and go try something else. And that's how you experiment with things that, you might find the better golden path. Like you may have found the data might have shown you one golden path, but maybe there's a better golden path because you're experimenting with new things. So I'd encourage you to have data drive most of your decisions, but not all, just by 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I get one good idea a day. It took me
till worth the podcast.
Late in the afternoon. So a question for you. Do you watch Shark Tank? I assume yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a favorite shark and who is it and why?
Yeah. Tough question. I like Mark Cuban and Rohan a lot. Rohan because he's involved in the space. I think he's extremely sharp. And then Mark, I think he's really practical, really nice guy, but at the same time is a tough businessman. And I think that, that's what you need to be successful in business. So I definitely admire the two of them very much so.
Good. Not Daniel Lebetsky?
I mean, yeah, he's a guest appearance.
No love for
he's
time?
Pretty great, honestly.
Okay, yeah. Good. I like it. Those are good answers. How do you like working with Circle Media?
Love it. Wouldn't be here if I didn't.
Yeah, hold on. Let me get you some cash. Appreciate that. What's on the horizon in the next 3 to 6 months for the brand that we should know about?
Yeah, so exciting new flavor launches coming out in 2021, and really building out our art platform. Obviously, celebrating the world's diversity is really important to us, and showing different art every week and highlighting different creators is really important to us. So we're trying to build out, that platform to be a little bit more robust and to feature, to be able to feature more artists, more content, and to actually be able to kind of be a place to create dialogue, if you will. So that's what we're kind of working on right now. And I think the new flavor will be pretty exciting. Some guys in your team actually know a little bit about that.
Right. How do you feel about staffing? Have you thought about internally staffing, outsourcing? What's your sense on that in the coming months?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're in a good spot. I'm really happy with, the people that we have on board. Not really looking to increase staffing at the moment, but that said, I mean, in the next six months from now, that probably will be the case. We probably will need to add some people. But right now, I'm really happy with the team we have. Everyone's working super hard. And everyone just like has that grit, which is something that, we look for when we, kind of onboard people. It started with me and Coco a year and a half ago, formulating the idea. And now there are 5 other people on board. So it's exciting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, being scrappy, first of all, it's by design, right? You have to be scrappy in the beginning. And then finding ways to continue to be scrappy, get the most out of every payroll, whether it's an external retainer with someone like us or anyone else, or internal. It's the game changers for any business. If you read it, like great business books, like Good to Great or these kind of things, it's it's not just people, it's the right people on the bus. They can be freelancer, they can be agency, they can be internal, are really the secret sauce that helps a brand with a good foundation be a game changer. So constantly assessing the value, what you're looking for, and getting those relationships up to the highest level is very important key advice. My gray hair has allowed me to give some advice like that, so I'm giving that to you. Do you have any questions for me?
Wow, good question. I guess one, you spoke about some pieces of advice. Do you have any other advice that you would lend to me and the audience as well? For entrepreneurs that are young, that are just starting out in the space.
That's a good one, Griffin. I didn't put you up to that, and I'm not gonna, I could go on for 6 hours about advice, but I like to have these, and this is the first time I've asked someone if they had a question for me, and you jumped right on it. I like to get these conversations to be conversational, and I want to add value. I try to add value all the time, and I think that's become very cliche, like value. People hit me up on LinkedIn all day. They want 10 minutes of my time to add value. But I truly do believe like I'm almost like a teacher, and like a teacher has a calling and they just want to teach, and then overall they just want to see their students grow. So I just like people to like take lessons from, and that's why I'm asking questions about Shark Tank and mentors and what motivates you and where you get your resources and what keeps you up at night. I'm trying to framework for founders that you shouldn't have to go it alone. You should have resources around you. You should have mentors in the space. You should ask them for advice until they tell you you're annoying, because they did it too, the successful ones. And so you should do the same. And you really, in order to make the least amount of mistakes, step in the fewest puddles, you really have to lean on the environment and the people that came before you. And I think finding those people early and making sure that the right people that beat to like the same drum as you is mission critical. And so for any early founder now, I would say latch on to somebody. It could be me, it could be somebody else that you think has like been through the fire before and that could give you sound advice that's going to be a game changer for your business. Because sometimes you're leading a company right now at this young age and everything's very insular and it's you to your team. But sometimes you need other people to bring to you because you don't have 100 people on your staff. When you grow, as you will, knock on wood, and you start to bring in really great staff, like awesome people, you're gonna be like, wow, like what a game changer having this like COO here or whatever. And until then, I think you just fill in the margins with just people external.
That
would be my advice. All right, so protein bar category is a competitive category. Why did you jump into it, and how are you different? Like, how are you standing out?
Yeah, super saturated. So with bringing this big of an idea to the market, we felt as though it was important to, go to market that was already established. So that was why the protein bar market, and, try our bars. They really do stand out from the pack. The first issue is there are basically 0 good tasting vegan protein bars. They're dry, they're chalky, they're tasteless. That's the first problem we solved. Our bars really do taste delicious. Coated with fantastic chocolate. The flavor profiles are fantastic. So our bars stand out from a flavor perspective. But then also from the profiles of the flavors themselves, we're incorporating ingredients from all over the world and have these unique flavor profiles. And that's something that you don't see in the market. You see the chocolate chip, brownie, cookie dough, but you don't see Japanese matcha vanilla for a protein bar. So those are the 2 differentiators.
Yeah. And what would you say to somebody that is like nervous about jumping into some of these flavors, right? Like so you sent me a pack when we started working together, and I don't even know which one I went for first, but I had them all.
Yeah.
And each one was better than the next. Like, but how would you get somebody into trying a unique flavor profile? What would you say to them?
Yeah, no, there's certainly some trepidation from consumers, but I think people just need to try them. One of the biggest pieces of feedback we've gotten is that they taste like Rice Krispie treats. So close your eyes, take a bite, and I don't want to guarantee, but I would almost guarantee you'll love it. So
they totally do. So you definitely nail texture. Like the texture has like this, like it's like a good texture, which you don't always find in protein bars. And then the flavor, each one, what I said to my wife was like they had a surprise. Like it was like,
Yeah,
oh, and
yeah.
is there spice in there? What?
Yeah.
And it was like this spice. So I think that's like a really cool thing. I also think that, you're the type of brand that, bundles are smart, right? Because if somebody gets all the flavors, like I used to get the kind flavors, but like at Costco, and they would have like one of their dummy flavors in there. So I was like, these stink. The opposite with you is like people are going to have trepidation or be like a little nervous and apprehensive. But if they try a bundle pack, like through your direct to consumer, they're going to like all the flavors, I really think. And it's one of those things to explore. And I think the market right now is a lot about exploration, trying new things. And you hit it on the head, right? Like a lot of the protein bars, and there's some good ones out there and some better than others, obviously, and some terrible ones. But a lot of them are like, let me just recreate chocolate. And so you're like, isn't it chocolate? And doesn't taste it. Yours is like new. So your mind goes somewhere new. It's like, I've never tried this kind of flavor profile before. And then you eat it and you're like, holy cow, like that was great.
Yeah, and that's why we offer that, free bar trial on our website. We just want to get the product into people's hands. We're very confident in what we've created. Now it's just like, let's get it to as many consumers as possible. And we're seeing some really awesome reorders. I mean, the other week I was just, on Shopify and I saw someone receive their bars and within 10 minutes they placed an order for like 6 more boxes. So I was like, that's awesome validation to get. And right now we just need to get the product in people's hands. And
right.
It's tough with COVID, truthfully.
Totally. Yeah, that free trial is smart to get people over the hump. I think your lifetime value is a smart play. Mm-hmm. Like it definitely works on your end. So that's on the direct to consumer side, like subscription, trying bundles, trying, free offer. Talk to me a little bit more about retail. I know you said you're in Walmart. Like what's your retail expansion plan?
Yeah, so we're really focused on the coast right now, mostly on the East Coast, honestly. We're in 40 independent retailers right now between New York and Boston, which we're really excited about because we were at 0 a month and a half ago.
Right.
So we're growing quickly, and we're actually doing direct sales right now. We're not even working with a distributor yet. So our plan is to really build up our customer base on the East Coast because we're seeing a lot of online purchases, from New York City specifically, and then from there build that West Coast and then kind of go from the coast inward. That's kind of our plan right now.
Got it. Makes sense. And I wanted to go back to Coco. So Coco sort of started this all, and we sort of slept on where that ended up. Like co-founder of the brand.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about like her role these days, where you guys are focusing her attention.
Yeah. So you're actually taking time away from her right now. I was supposed to be talking to her at 5:30 on Tuesday.
Sorry, Coco.
Yeah. But she's the director of social and corporate responsibility. So she really decides, to whom we give back and where we give back. And obviously a co-founder. And I think that's a really important function for her because, she's such a big piece of the puzzle and she's so adamant about the social mission. She's really, why this thing started, and it started in a social entrepreneurship class. And she's very passionate about giving back. If you met her, I mean, her passion really like exudes. It's amazing. So she's in a perfect role and she's doing a great job.
Right. And yeah, I think, do you guys really push a lot of your responsibility initiatives and your messaging? Is there anything you should the people on this podcast know more about that, sort of your position there?
Yeah, I mean, we try and be, extremely socially responsible. We produced 10,000 bars for a trial run. They were all supposed to be given out at Expo West, used as marketing materials, sent to influencers, really just about getting our brand out there. Obviously, that plan went awry. We ended up sending over 30% of our inventory to, hospitals, and charities in the New York City and actually Charlottesville region, just to kind of get back. So that was the first thing we did. And then we've also donated, we're supposed to be donating 2% of our profits in the form of art supplies to schools in need. We've donated 100% of profits because we haven't made profit yet, right. So far to two art organizations. So one is the Youth Art Exchange in California, and then another is Charlottesville High School. They're actually building art kits. So we donated to them as well. So, we're really adamant about giving back and being a socially responsible brand. And, these are just some of the ways that we've done so far.
Right. Great. And I think that's important. I think a lot of young millennials or even sub-millennials get in this space and they're like, we got to have this type of product and we got to give back. And it's like, sometimes it's going to feel forced. But I could tell from your co-founder, it exudes. You partnered with her for a reason.
Yeah.
And so it seems true to your mission. So I definitely wanted to talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah.
And I think that people should know that because it's not just about the great product, but it's also a great product and a great company with a great mission.
Yeah. And I mean, we've given back literally thousands of dollars to these places and we haven't made a dime yet. So, I mean, not to say that like we're trying to run a company that's not profitable, but at the same time, like it is important to, have a balance there and also to be a socially responsible brand, especially today.
You can be socially responsible and socially profitable
Exactly.
and do both at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think, you see brands like Patagonia that pull that off well. And they're a good benchmark. It's hard when you're young and you like need every dollar you can get and you're eating ramen noodles and trying to figure it out. But I think it's an important thing, not just because like doing the right thing is the right thing, but also because it just helps you get out of bed in the morning a little bit more than just building a company and trying to give back. And now more than ever, I think a lot of organizations could use it. So I definitely applaud you for that. Well, first off, how do people find you on social and online? Just a plug for how to find you?
Yeah. So we're at Eat Mezcla is, our handle. And outside of that, people are finding us on the About page and also through our micro influencers. We're getting, we're gaining followers pretty quickly. We're still only at, 6,000 something, but, people are finding us and, it's exciting to kind of see the snowball start to get bigger right now.
Right. And if you had an audience here of some of your fans or even customers, and you wanted to encourage them to go spread the word about you, what would you have them do?
Honestly, any product they have, I would just give to their friends. I think the product speaks for itself.
Right. So word of mouth and
exactly.
product.
Word of mouth and product. Yeah.
Yeah. It's important. And I think we encourage brands that they have an allocation to get in the hands of people. If you believe in your baby, get your baby out there so people can try it and then tell you a little bit about it. There's some upstart brands I think that hide behind it. They went on a trend. They have an also ran brand. It doesn't necessarily stand out. So it's like, people are going to buy it and they're never going to come back.
Yeah.
That's obviously not a long-term business. So when you believe in your product, as I know that you do, getting it out there is really important. So obviously anyone listening to this podcast, you want to get an order, get on that website and get involved. I think you'll be a fan. I encourage any founder out there, you can reach out to you personally on LinkedIn. Do you want to put a plug?
No, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll always respond. I'm all about, helping out and lending any advice I can. Obviously, I still have a lot to learn, but 100% reach out and I'll get back to you.
For sure. And he definitely supports that. I think that's sort of how we came together. It's really nice having a front row seat in your journey and playing it even a smaller part. We plan to continue to help in any way that we can, whether it's within Circle or outside of Circle, to see you win. I really enjoy working with young entrepreneurs like yourself. Anything I could do along the way on the journey, I'm here to do so. So
awesome.
Take advantage.
Well, Adam, you've been great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, man. So this concludes my chat with Griffin Spolansky of Mezcla. I hope you learned a thing or two and you will pick some up and give it a try. I am positive you will be a fan.